Welcome back to our Homestead Odyssey. We are doing our second week of checking in on our meat chicks that we are raising, and we are moving the chicks out of the house today. They've gotten way too big for the tote that they're in. We were gonna move them outside, which I showed us getting that other coop ready in our first week's video, which I'll put a link up above for that video so you can check it out if you haven't seen it yet. But as they've gotten big, and they've gotten really big, and I'll show you a video of them soon, they are, and don't mind the Wyoming wind, it's always windy here, and it's very windy today. They've gotten so big that I don't feel like that coop is going to be big enough to let them grow out the rest of the way in until the weather warms up. If we move them in that coop now, they won't be able to go outside because it's too cold. We would put a heat lamp in, but they just wouldn't have enough room to move around. I feel like they need a little more space. So we've decided to set up a space in our garage for the chicks to grow out a little bit bigger until the weather gets a little warmer outside, so that the chicks are big enough to be outside and inside their coop, and we don't have to worry about them being too cold. So join us. We're gonna set that up outside, and then we will move the chicks out here, and you'll get to see how big they are. So this rainbow thing that I've just set up, this is a child's like play yard. You can move it all around different ways. We actually used it this year around our Christmas tree because we have a little rambunctious little girl who we knew would try to tear apart that tree. And so that's what we used that for. And we just had the idea that this would give the chicks a much bigger area. We're gonna put a tarp underneath it and then put a bunch of straw and bring out their heat lamp so that they'll be warm in here. So a big part of why we wanted to move them, not only for the space, was the water that we had in the tub just constantly got nasty. And so we picked up this water container, which holds a lot more because the other one just held a quart, and I think this is a 5-quart water. So this one holds quite a bit more, and they were going through it several times a day. And then they were also filling it with poop and all sorts of stuff, and we may have to raise this up a little more. But by hanging it, we're able to have it up off the ground, so hopefully it will reduce some of the poop and feed getting into it. I don't think it'll reduce it all because chickens love to poop where they aren't supposed to poop. Then we have that little feeder over here, which we're probably gonna need to figure out a bigger type feeder. And then slowly we have been introducing them to the spent brewer grains. We're hoping for most of their grain as they get older, the grain that they have, we're hoping to use the spent brewer grains. This will help keep the cost of raising the chicks a lot cheaper, and the spent grains has actually more protein in it than a chick grower starter feed. So, and it's also naturally fermented, so it's got probiotics. It's, you know, it'll be a really good feed for them. Plus, we're hoping to have them out on grass, give them fresh greens. So between the spent brewer grains to cover their grains, and then getting the good healthy food outside, you know, we're hoping to raise some pretty good meat. So we're about to move the chicks in here, and hopefully they like their new home. So as you can see, they are a lot bigger than they were before. Many of them are starting to get their adult feathers in, which means they're close to being able to go outside. There's a couple, let's see if I can get out of that one. Like this one, or like this one. So there's a couple like those two where they're still in that awkward teenage stage of going from a chick to a larger bird, where they're losing their puffy, fluffy little feathers, and they're getting their big, long adult feathers in. And so you don't really want to stick them outside when they have a lot of exposed skin like that, because it's a lot easier for them to get cold. Now meat chickens do tend to have bald spots here and there because they're raised to get big and fat and not necessarily to have big beautiful feathers, but we don't want them getting cold, we don't want them getting sick. So far we still have not lost any of our meat birds, and so we'd like to keep it that way. We could almost raise that up a little bit.
Let's leave it there for right now.
Just let them see it. So I slowly have, while they were inside, given them little bowls of brewer grains. And when I'd put them in, they weren't super interested, so I'd sprinkle the chick feed on it. And it seems like they're really starting to like it more. The hiding chicken.
We should go and check on them.
Yeah.
See if there's anything.
Got like freaked out.
Whoa!